Mara. Each episode is an exploration of taste as we dive into the good, the bad, and the unexpected in TV and movies. Tune in for the celebrity guests, stay for the surprising recommendations. This is Hollywood Approved. So, as you can tell, this week we do not have a celebrity guest and we do not have Yael, but we do have a special co host. Mara, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm a very, very new member to the HCA. Thank you. Also, I've been receiving such a warm welcome by you and by everyone else. I am partners with Dan Murrell, who some people may know as a new board member of the HCA as the Public Information Officer. Congrats, Dan. We are joined by a minor celebrity. Sir Pounce is right down here. He might make a face-to-face appearance if he feels so inclined. Thank you very much for inviting me to co-host with you today.
I'm so excited to hear more about what you've been watching, what you're into, and just like get some recommendations, share back and forth.
Absolutely. I did happen to get a sneak peek at some of what you've been watching, and I'm excited because it's not something that I've heard of. So this is really great.
Oh, awesome. I think we both have different tastes, so that'll be good in getting like different recommendations in there. So first up, let's start with what is the last thing that you watched. Mara, do you want to go first?
Oh, yes. So an epic masterpiece of cinema, David Lynch's Dune. My partner Dan had never seen it, and he finally finished reading the first novel. So that meant that he could watch the movie because about the last 30 minutes of it is not included in Denis Villeneuve's Dune. So please don't watch that one if you want to know what's coming in part 2. Just be sure you're ready. But it is something. It's really something. Have you seen it?
I've seen the new one, but I have not seen the original. So what can you tell us about it?
Well, let's just say that for the scope of its budget, it doesn't look very expensive. And I'm not trying to criticize David Lynch because I really, truly think that no director could have done it any better. It's a very difficult novel to adapt. I've been a Herbert fan for a very long time, usually an ashamed Herbert fan because we weren't looked at very favorably in the novel to film adaptation community before Denis' Dune. But it has a fantastic Patrick Stewart performance. There's a pug. It's really great to actually see Kyle MacLachlan's first role because he's just so fresh-faced and you can really see where he begins to grow into the accomplished actor that we know him as today. It's an experience. I recommend popcorn, I recommend snacks, and I recommend someone to cuddle with because it is something. It's really something. And I like it from a cult classic perspective, but I'm not going to tell you it's good because it's not.
Well, compared to the new one, how do you feel about it in that regard?
They actually do have a lot of similarities and parallels with the characterizations, which are taken pretty directly from the novel. There are some departures that I think I actually think there are some things that 1984's Dune does better. There's a particular storyline involving a character and why his motivations, why he does what he does, that isn't explored effectively in Denis' Dune, and that's totally fine. But as a novel reader, understanding why he does what he does is so important to the surprise of his actions for the viewer. And I don't want to spoil it in case anybody hasn't actually been able to watch Dune yet, but I think that just the stunning visual medium of Denis' Dune, the score, the Academy Award-winning score. I was begging Dan. I was like, I know it's 4 a.m, but can we please just watch the other Dune? And he said that we could watch it tonight. So next Dune is up on the playlist this evening.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I feel like it's the way you're describing it sounds so good, but I'm not like a huge like sci-fi epic type of person. I wish I was because it always looks like crazy. But I don't know. I just have a hard time getting through it. But yeah, I love when you're able to like compare and contrast and like see how things have evolved and changed over time, especially with like how they're filming things and how like different characters are being portrayed over the course of from 1984 so to now and things like that. So
yeah, pre my existence to now.
Totally.
Well, if you do watch it, I'd love to know what you think.
Totally. Well, is it streaming anywhere?
I don't know if it's actually on HBO Max. We happen to have the Blu-ray, so we watched it on physical media because we're a big physical media family here. But I can check before the show is over and let you know.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Awesome. So yeah, the last thing that I watched was the new White Hot: The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie and Fitch documentary, which I feel like a lot of people were anticipating. I kind of, was like, whatever. I wasn't really like hip, I feel like, to all of the cool pop culture back when I was young. Some people were like shopping at Abercrombie and Fitch and like watching TRL, and I like didn't really do that. But I had heard such good things of like people just like anticipating this documentary. So I was like, let's see. And then I was like, wow, yeah, there's definitely like a gap in my pop culture where like during that like early 2000s, late 90s, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know. I didn't wear Abercrombie and Fitch, but they really explore like the brand's pop culture reign from basically the late 90s to the early 2000s, and how they thrived on exclusion and being like so exclusive and things like that. And I didn't even realize that the company itself, like Abercrombie, existed in like, I think it was like either the 1800s or something like that, where like it was like a man outdoorsy type of store that like presidents would shop at, like people that did like polo and things like that. And then it's like slowly evolved over time to become the Abercrombie and Fitch that we know it as. And then I think sort of like fell off, and now I think they're trying to make a comeback. And so it kind of went through their whole journey, how, they were, featured in pop culture on MTV and that song by LFO, and how, they really thrived on, keeping certain people out. They had a very specific vision where they were trying to sell like a combination of like the American dream, like all American, but also like sex sells, and you had those like their shopping bags that had like all the shirtless guys, and they even dove into how some of the like modeling people like dealt with like awkward situations with the people who were like the head of Abercrombie and Fitch, and like there was like some sketchiness that went on there. And so it was a very interesting documentary. Did you grow up in that like Abercrombie and Fitch like, vibe, or like era of just like, all of that kind of pop culture stuff?
I mean, it was definitely popular. I was definitely not the popular kid wearing it, partially because I think that even back then in like junior high school-ish, I was in and out of homeschooling too, so I wasn't as plugged into what people had to do to be like popular and trendy style-wise. But I had a lot of social anxiety about going in a store where the second I walked in, someone was going to ask me if I needed help, which from a customer service angle is great. But for me is like, no, I'm good, thanks, turn around and leaves. And I was never a bikini wearer per se, so I didn't really have that much to do in the store. But I think there might actually be one dress that I've got in the back corner of my closet that's probably from Abercrombie and Fitch, because I kept it for so long because I was like, it's the one item I bought there. But I actually wasn't aware of this documentary, and I'm very excited. Documentary is one of my absolute favorite formats. I like just learning about stuff, especially stuff I don't know a lot about. And I certainly remember the kind of you've got to be hot criteria to having a job there. And I'd be curious to see kind of what was the corporate philosophy that engineered that and how they've tried to move forward from that. So I'm actually going to check it out based on your recommendation, because I didn't even know that it was around or that it was like already out. So that's part of me and my blind spot of not being as plugged in right at this very moment due to some health issues. But I can plug right back in now and say, why were you popular?
Yeah, and they really tackle all of that, and like kind of how the CEO, like it was all kind of based off of his own image. So I don't know, they talk about a lot of interesting things. So I think even if you weren't like an Abercrombie and Fitch fan, which I think both of us weren't really in there, like it's still like very fascinating to see how like it influenced pop culture. And there's been a lot of interesting documentaries recently, I feel like, about just like things that we grew up with. Like there was like the Von Dutch documentary series that they were doing. Like there's just like a whole bunch where it's just like, oh wow, they're like, I don't know, all these things that were around when we were kids are now like the vintage, like interesting topics to explore. It's so funny.
I like that dichotomy between the documentaries like TikTok Boom coming out of Sundance, that's about, what's happening right now in our zeitgeist, either technologically or socially or both in that case. And then also we can still have a lot of people that want to explore things like Abercrombie and Fitch and go and look retroactively, because I think that there's far more parallels than we'd even think, even between something like a fashion magnate like Abercrombie and Fitch and a tech data mining social platform like TikTok.
Totally, absolutely. And TikTok Boom, another great documentary. That was wild. They covered everything that you could think of. Like, I remember watching and thinking like, okay, well, are they going to tackle this and any single thing that you could think of, from, how people got popular to the politics, everything. Wild.
And I only recently got into TikTok, and learning about exactly how their algorithm does program things into your feed was frightening and mind-blowing, because it's true. TikTok got me in about 45 seconds. Send me cat videos. And that's pretty much all that they send me. And they know that that's what works.
Yep. They know. But let's move on to our next topic, which is, what is a show or a movie that you just discovered? Could be new, could be old. What is one for you?
So very recently, I watched The Best Years of Our Lives. It is from 1946, right after World War II. Probably the biggest project that I think of when I think of what is looking at service members after the war. And it's crazy that it's immediately afterwards. Also, it's Oscar's history, because Harold Russell, I'm 99% sure that's his name. Don't yell at me if I'm wrong, but also tell me if I'm wrong. He is Oscar's history because he's the only actor to win 2 Academy Awards for the same performance, because they gave him the honorary award part of the way through the show, just about his experience and how that related. He was injured. He actually had prosthetic mechanical hands because he had lost his hands in a training accident. And that was part of his character in the film. And then he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and they thought he was a long shot pick and wanted to honor him with the honorary award. And then he won. So just Oscar's history there. I loved, as a veteran myself, watching their version of how they communicated a person in their early 20s, in their mid 30s, and in their 50s, these 3 men, different generations, how they came back from war, how war affected them. And it felt very authentic and earnest. And it has a long runtime, but I felt absolutely no time dragging. I was riveted from the second it started to the second it ended. It's really beautiful and sincere. And even though it's made so long ago, I feel like many times you do find some of these issues either in the behavior between genders or between ages or between types of people. And it actually really feels like it could exist pretty much in the modern day. It doesn't have a lot of antiquated like vernacular or things like that could be off-putting. So if anybody hasn't seen it, I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Oh, wow. That sounds really cool. And I didn't realize you were a veteran. Thank you for your service. I come from a veteran family as well. But yeah, wow, that sounds awesome. So, are you into like, older like films and kind of like checking those out?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had very, very older parents. Like for example, I bet my parents are the age of your grandparents, even though I think we're about the same age. So, I grew up on Bringing Up Baby and Roman Holiday and, just all sorts of much older films, like the very first version of The Lady in White or the first version of The Haunting. So yeah, I really, really like old film. It doesn't all hold up, but I have a sentimentality to it, especially Audrey Hepburn. I love her. So yeah, but I watch anything really. As long as you throw it in front of my face and it grabs me, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I've been trying to like find some older films just to like, learn and see what they've done before. Like, I finally watched Meet Me in St. Louis last year for Christmas, wow. And I was like, how have I not watched this? But then songs from it, and you're like, wait a minute, how do I know this? And it's because some things are such classics that like they span decades or different generations, and it doesn't even matter. Like, so yeah, that's really cool though. The Best Years of Our Lives. I'll have to check that one out.
Ooh, what is something that you recently discovered?
So something I recently discovered, or I guess rediscovered, was the Time Warp Trio. I don't know if you were familiar with this book series. It came out in like, I think it was like the 90s, by John Sakeza. I think that's how you say his name. And it's basically this story of these three boys who are best friends, and one of them, it's his birthday. His uncle's a magician and gives him this book, and the book basically allows them to travel to different times, and the only way to get back is to find the book again, and then they can go back to their regular time. And they made a TV show that was on Discovery Kids, and shout out to TikTok, because everybody's talking about random things there, and it randomly came up on my feed, some girl talking about, remember these Discovery Kids shows? And I was like, Time Warp Trio, I loved those books. And so I was like recently rewatching some of the episodes, and it's just so fun because like you really got to learn a lot about history, but in like a very fun, silly way. So they go back to like the times of like Genghis Khan, or like Blackbeard, or the Knights of the Round Table, and then they go to like 2050 something and meet their great granddaughters, and it's just like very goofy, and it just like took me back, because I remember reading the books and loving them when I was little, but it was like one of those books like that you kind of you had to like remember about it, like not necessarily like, oh yeah, like Goosebumps or whatever, like that everyone talks about. It's like one of those ones you're like, oh my god, I forgot about that. And so to watch the show, it was really fun. I watched like a couple of episodes, and I was like, wow, I like want to go read the books again, because it was so cute.
I was just about to ask, so you read the books and watched the show?
I didn't read the books again, but I had read them when I was young, and then I watched the show recently, some of the episodes, and it was good. I was like, classic.
That's so cool. See, my parents didn't really let me watch cable, so I had never heard of this. So I kind of looked up a couple YouTube clips, and it does seem really cute. It seems like the historical version of how the Magic School Bus was kind of biology and chemistry. Mm-hmm. So I really like that. I bet I would have really enjoyed it as a kid, because I just felt like when people make learning accessible and engaging, they kind of trick you into learning something.
Yeah, and there's stuff that like even I didn't necessarily realize in history, like I don't know much about Genghis Khan, but the way that they told the story, it was like when he was younger, and then the kids slowly start realizing, wait a minute, that's Genghis Khan. And they're like, oh, we know the history of him from school, and now we know him as a young kid. And then, they got to get the book and head back to modern day. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. I think they should bring it back. It was classic. Time Warp Trio, like what a great title too. Like three best friends, time traveling. Yeah.
You never know. Maybe you're going to put the idea out there and manifest it, because revivals are huge right now. And people that are our age might have their own kids, or even people that are just a little bit older than us that have their own kids that would watch it. So the nostalgia factor of, hey, as a parent, I watched this as a kid. You sit your kid in front of the TV and you watch it. So maybe it gets a revival. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. And sometimes it's the ones that you're like, wait, they would really revive that like that you're surprised that they end up doing it, and then it's like very successful, and you're like, all right, cool. But yeah, so highly recommend. A lot of fun, and it's animated for anyone who's watching who might be interested in checking it out. But let's go on to our comfort show or movie. What is yours?
I mean, I'll admit it, I'm a sucker for procedurals, in the sense that I find the repetition very comforting. You know what you're getting. Castle is actually one I'm watching right now, because I had surgery a couple weeks ago, and I have been spending a lot of time on the sofa, in bed, and in the hospital off and on. So I have just had Castle on Hulu, going from one episode to the next, and I've seen it so many times. I even own all of it on physical media as well, but I didn't want to have to get up and change discs, so I streamed it. I love Nathan Fillion. He has such a great chemistry with everyone. He has chemistry with a brick wall. I just find him very engaging. I also had the pleasure of meeting him once. He was incredibly nice. And so I like watching him do pretty much anything. I love Firefly. I love Serenity, but they're too short. I needed 7 seasons of something to watch. So I like it. It's fun. Have you ever seen Castle?
I have not, but I know that people love Nathan Fillion. I've loved him in other things that I've seen him in, but like one of my best friends like loves Castle. And I remember one time we went to Comic-Con, and we went to like I think it was a Firefly panel, but he was there, and we didn't even get anywhere near him, and she's sobbing in her seat, and I'm like, the impact he has just being in the same room.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's any procedural. Like Yael, I also love Law and Order SVU. Also, make sure you check out her podcast if you haven't already, for the viewer. But any of those kind of, you know exactly what you're getting, rhythm shows, you know, and I like the fact that both of those develop their characters really well. It's not just the someone did something, who has done it? Oh, this person has done it. Oh, there might be a surprise, and then there's the end. There's a lot of time devoted to you caring about the people in the show, so I appreciate that a lot. But I'll also just watch anything that I've seen before over again because it just feels cozy. If I fall asleep in the middle of it and I wake up 3 episodes later, I'm not thinking like, oh, what did I miss? So that's what I've been watching on the sofa. What do you have go-to comfort show or movie?
Yeah, well, one that I've been watching recently is Ghosts on CBS. This is a new show. They've only had a season so far, but it's so much fun. It's basically about this couple who they inherit this house and they want to turn it into a bed and breakfast. And there's ghosts that live there, and they are not really cool about these people coming in and like taking over their house. So they try to get them out. And in the first episode, when they're trying to do that, they accidentally kind of knock into the girl, and she has a near-death experience, so now she can see the ghosts. All become friends, and so it's not like a scary show; it's like a comedy where, like, you know, you're learning about each ghost's background, and she's trying ways, or they're trying to help her with the B&B, and there's just a really fun episodes like you know, they learn about television and they watch TV for the first time and they're like, oh my gosh, like, because they're all from different eras. You know, some of them are like go all the way back to like revolutionary times, or like all the way back to like, you know, Viking times, or as early as like the 60s with like hippies, or like the early 80s. And so it's a lot of fun. It's just like one of those ones where it's like a fun sitcom. But like you said, they kind of explore all the characters in a way that you're like, wow, every episode, even though you don't have to watch them in order, you are learning so much about each of them. And they like grow over time. And the finale just happened. I think it was literally this past Thursday was the finale. And you know, you could just see how like at the very beginning of the show, they were all like wary of the humans, and now they're all like besties and, you know, gonna open this B&B together. And it's just a lot of fun. They had like a prom
cool. You can go
episode. They
binge
had,
the whole thing now.
yeah, yeah. You can binge the whole thing now. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I don't know if you've heard about it, but they also had a British version.
Oh, I didn't
And so
know
this,
that. Every great show, I swear, came from the UK.
yeah, it really is true. So this is like the American adaptation, but I really like everybody in it. There's so many like just really talented people, and everyone has like their little moments to shine. So it's good. I like it a lot.
Do you happen to know, is it renewed for a second season? Are we going to get more?
Yes, it is. It is. Yeah. You know, I feel like this year actually has been the year of, I mean, it's only April, so it's not really a full year, but, you know, there's been a lot of really successful sitcoms, I feel like. This one people really have liked. Abbott Elementary is another one. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but,
Mhm.
you know, that one I feel like people are loving as well. So maybe it's the, like, the rise of sitcoms again. Maybe they're making another comeback.
I mean, in a way, I feel like we can all kind of use a sitcom a little bit over the last couple of years. Things have been hard for everyone in their own ways. And, you know, easily digestible yum yum television has its place in society. I mean, frivolities are important to us. That's why we have them. So, a really good, fun, like 22-minute show. I mean, what a joy.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Are the Castle episodes an hour, or are they like?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, I want to sit and watch an hour, and sometimes I'm like, give me 20 minutes and I'll just kind of like, you know, do something else while I'm watching. And yeah, good stuff. Let's move on to our final question, which is about TV and movie crushes. So, who was one of your first movie or TV show crushes?
So I always joke that my boyfriend in the 90s was Michael Biehn. I loved him in Yes, Aliens. I loved him in The Terminator. He was just I don't know. I think it's because he was just this good guy. You know, he was the guy that was there for you. He was also his character pretty strong feminist character for the time. So, I mean, he didn't demean the women around him. He saw their strength and helped them be stronger. I mean, he's not hard to look at. He's held up really well. Seeing him recently in The Mandalorian. So, yeah, he's still my boyfriend in my mind, even though that age gap makes it a little creepy. But I don't care. I was in love with him and all the characters he played back then, and I would love to finally tell him that and just be like, yep, you know what? Just let it wash over you. I was 9. Don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, I'm sure he's honored.
I know that it's probably a really weird one. I was really hard actually to think back because I know it sounds really peculiar, but I have noticed a large, like disproportionately large amount of the crushes I have had on people. It usually ends up being an actor that is gay. And so I've come to realize that I must have some sort of an attraction to gay men, which is fine because, you know, nothing has to ever happen there. It's just a little Hollywood crush. But, you know, it's just a fun thing. I never would have just thought about it until I was sitting there kind of going through TV shows and movies. And I thought, oh, I'm sensing a pattern here.
That's so funny.
Maybe I know that they say a lot of times, like, you can develop the emotional crushes on people because a lot of times your male friends that are not interested in you romantically, they fulfill other emotional needs that you might not have otherwise from your hetero or bisexual male partners that you might have. But I don't have that problem with Dan. He's great. He fulfills my every emotional need. But maybe as a younger person who didn't really date and who was very awkward, maybe that was part of it. Maybe I found their handsomeness, of course, and them being very non-threatening. Who knows? I'm sure my psychiatrist would have oodles to say. But you know what? I also appreciate talent where talent is, and there's lots of talented people of every variety. So, but Michael Biehn was probably the very first one where I was just like, I watched this movie over and over again because I like to look at you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
What about you?
My initial one, so I'm picking a secondary one because me and Yael have done this question once before, and my answer was Tom Felton from the Harry Potter movies. We love a bad boy, Draco Malfoy. I don't know, there's something about Hermione Granger in that one film where she punches him in the face, and I was like, I don't know why I love this. She's like a tough girl being like, no, I'm gonna tell you what's up. But so for today, I chose another childhood crush, which was Corbin Bleu from the High School Musical movies. He's like, just look at his cute little face. So handsome, so talented. You know, he's got like so much charisma, like not even just acting wise, but like he's got moves, you know, like he's an entertainer, he's a performer, and I think that is very like appealing, I guess, you know, like because you're just like in awe that this guy is so talented. It's so funny because whenever he was in like Disney stuff, he was always a dancer, but then in High School Musical, they were like, he's like, I don't dance, and it's like, yo, we know you we know you dance.
What can't you do, you know?
Right? Yeah. So he's just, you know, very talented. So, you know, drawn to the talent.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, I mean, that curl pattern is to die for. Like, what's not to love there? I actually wasn't a High School Musical person, but I recall seeing him in other things because I was like, why do I know that name? I know who that is. I looked him up and I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who that is. But one of these days I have to go back and watch the High School Musical movies because they missed me just by a hair age-wise. But everyone talks about them, and I have done like friends bracket shows and streams and things like that, and every single time a High School Musical movie shows up, so there's got to be a reason. So I'm gonna have to probably give them a watch when I've got some time.
They're really good. I rewatched them a couple of years ago when they were first announcing like the High School Musical, the series on Disney Plus, which is also great. I'm just like, I'm a very like theatrical, like theater kid. So all of that was just like my jam. Even the new show is really good. I just remember as like a child, like me and my brother would like be doing all the performances to the songs like in our house. Like, yeah, we were very much into it. My brother even actually was Troy in the middle school production of High School Musical. So,
whoa,
like, yeah, we were a High School Musical family, but yeah, all the movies, they hold up pretty well, I would say. It's just, you know, the music's good, it's fun, and the new show is very good as well.
Plus, just to see how far everyone that was in that trilogy of movies has come, because almost everyone has some sort of like new accomplished career path, and I mean, it all had to start somewhere. So it's kind of fun to go back to the beginning and just kind of, it's kind of like with Dune, looking at Kyle MacLachlan, like, oh my god, this was you when you were just a wee little baby.
Yeah, it's like amazing to, I think that's why like some of these actors are so popular, is that like you were able to follow them from like the start of their careers, that you feel that kind of connection of like, wow, I either grew up with you or I helped you come up because I watched, your thing or streamed your thing or listened to your music or whatever it is. You have like that personal connection in a way because you feel like you've grown up with them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like when you mentioned the Harry Potter films. I mean, I know I feel that way about Emma Watson, Daniel Radcliffe, Tom Felton, which I loved. I got like a little oozy when I watched the Return to Hogwarts special, and he was talking about how much he cared about Emma Watson and how she just followed him around everywhere, and how it was just such a sweet thing to hear them all like talk so warmly about one another, and that they have the same sort of warm nostalgia for the project, even with all of the grueling things that they went through as young actors, learning how to be better actors, going to school, all of it all together. So, but it gave me a real soft spot for him too. But I know I feel like seeing them, like Daniel Radcliffe, not the best performance in Sorcerer's Stone / Philosopher's Stone. It's good. It's good for a kid, like totally good. But when I look at him now and I'm just like, how have you become like this amazing actor? And I feel like I kind of grew up with him because we're the same age. So I get exactly what you're saying. Now I just want to go watch Harry Potter.
I know, right? It's like to do a big rewatch.
I mean, hey, you can do it all in a very, very long day.
Whole day, no bathroom breaks, just popcorn, water, and just plop on the couch.
Oh yeah, mischief managed.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mara, for joining us today on this brand new episode of Hollywood Approved. Before we go, we want to remind you guys that the Hollywood Critics Association has lots of amazing content coming out every week, including many after shows, Pop Council on Mondays, What to Stream on Thursdays, and more. Until next time, Mara, where can they find you on the internet, and what are you up to these days?
You can find me on Twitter at @thatmara. I am kind of dumb and don't really know exactly how Instagram works, but I have one. It's at @thatmaraLA. Right now, I am helping Dan produce content on his channel and also just healing. But hopefully, I'll be starting up some new projects around the summer. So perhaps if I'm spinning around in here, I'll be able to share some of that later. And also just trying to become a more part of the organization here at HCA. And I'm really, really excited for the opportunity to be here with you today. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I'm glad you could join me today. And some stuff that I'm working on, just my site, popcultureplanet.net, is, thriving, and we got new podcast episodes every other week. Actually, tomorrow's new episode, we have Jorge R. Gutierrez, who did Maya and the Three and the Book of Life, joining us to talk about his experience in Hollywood. So yeah, you want to check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Hollywood Approved, and we'll catch you next week.